The year is 1492. While sailing on his first voyage to the New World, Columbus stumbles upon a small island just north of Hispaniola. He named it Tortuga de Mar, as the shape of its jagged and rocky coasts resembled a sea turtle's shell. Little did Columbus know that this island was going to become the cradle of Caribbean piracy. The island of Tortuga was initially colonized in 1625 by a few Spanish settlers, but after the settlers left the island to root out French colonists on mainland Hispaniola, Tortuga became a base for buccaneers, who were at the time French and Englishmen that hunted feral pigs and cattle, left on Hispaniola by early Spanish settlers. The buccaneers would sell the hides and meat to corsairs and privateers as ship rations. In the following years, Tortuga was the subject of countless skirmishes, being captured by Spain, recaptured by buccaneers, and then made into a French colony. French filibusters began using the island as a safe haven, with the buccaneers joining them to get back at the Spanish. By the 1640s, the buccaneers and filibusters began calling themselves Brethren of the Coast, a loose confederation that elected the most capable man to be their leader. Colonial governors began taking notice of them, providing them with letters of marque, allowing them to attack the Spanish at will. The buccaneers were seen as heroes of the New World, attacking Spanish colonies and protecting young colonies. When they returned from battle, they went into town, bought themselves new clothes, ate good food, drank plenty, spent quality time with their favorite girl. Some colonies even imported prostitutes from Europe. The first step towards buccaneer dominance would be gaining a major foothold in the Caribbean. So, what if the 1655 English invasion of Hispaniola succeeded? If the raid succeeded and the English conquered Hispaniola, they would hire buccaneers to protect their newly conquered territories, as they hired them to protect Jamaica in our timeline. This would all fall in line with Cromwell's plans for Western expansion into the Caribbean. A big part of what differentiated buccaneers from later pirates was their numbers. Companies of buccaneers often had over 1,000 members, so it's reasonable to assume their presence and influence on the newly conquered land would be great. Because of their military prowess and experience organizing large companies of men, a buccaneer commander would most likely be appointed in charge of Hispaniola, tasked with getting rid of the remaining Spanish settlers. The next great move of the buccaneers would be blocking Spanish trade through the Windward Passage by raiding towns and establishing posts throughout eastern and northeastern Cuba. This would most certainly anger the Spanish, but there would be little chance they could do anything, as they were already at war with the English. Following this, the Spanish would most likely move their trade routes up north, near the coasts of Florida and through the Bahamas. This would mean more ships would be lost along the way, as the shallow waters could often not be able to accommodate the heavy Spanish treasure ships, leaving them vulnerable to attacks from lighter and nimbler privateer vessels. Following the blockade of the Windward Passage, the buccaneers would establish posts and colonies in the sparsely populated Bahamian Islands, as well as the Florida Keys. This would further hinder the trade routed between Spain and its Central American and Caribbean colonies, but also serve as a hotspot for scavengers seeking to retrieve treasure from sunken Spanish ships. There would be plenty of them, as buccaneer fleets would have no problems intercepting the large and slow Spanish treasure galleons. With the Spanish at war and with support from the French and English, the buccaneers would continue to raid and capture Spanish towns, relocating hordes of people from the captured towns to other colonies, or simply using them for forced labor. While later pirates were known for treating POWs humanely, the buccaneers had no problem torturing and enslaving them. One by one, the Spanish possessions in the Caribbean would be raided, captured, ceded to the English, made into colonies, and ruled by influential buccaneer captains. In this timeline, we could see great Spanish cities abandoned and burned to the ground, with new cities built atop them. Larger and larger raids would be carried out in major cities. One by one, Spanish colonies would be sacked and conquered by the buccaneer armies. With most of the Caribbean under control, the next target would be Panama, as it served as a link between the Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean Sea, allowing buccaneer companies access to the riches brought over from the Philippines. With a foothold in Central America, the buccaneers would advance south along the Andes Mountains, sacking towns along the way. Their final goal would be the mine of Cerro Rico de Potosi, by far the largest silver mine in the world at the time. What united the buccaneers was the common theme of having a bone to pick with the Spanish Empire, the sole superpower in the early to mid-17th century. With the rapid decline of the Spanish Empire came a lack of demand for the service of buccaneer companies, the latter falling out of favor. New colonial governors not sympathetic to the buccaneer cause would be put in charge. Companies would dismantle, with some members retiring and settling down, and others turning to piracy. The early years of the 1700s would mark the fall of buccaneer dominance in the West Indies, with the great empires of Europe turning against them. The ones that turned to piracy would most likely relocate to settlements along the coast of the Indian Ocean. This timeline would also probably not see the rise of pirates of the later Golden Age, like Benjamin Hornigold, Bartholomew Roberts, and the infamous Edward Thatch, as they were veterans of the Spanish Succession War, privateers turned pirates. There is a good chance, however, that important names such as Sir Henry Morgan, Henry Avery, and Bartholomew Sharp will be present in this timeline. As with any deviation from our actual timeline, certain events would be impossible to predict. Perhaps the early English victories would lead to an even larger British Empire than the one in our timeline, or the opposite, a timely fall of the Great Empire due to the instability brought about by this rapid expansion. In the end, while we cannot be certain of what the world would look like in this timeline, it is fair to assume it would be vastly different from the world we know.